Imagine this. It's a Friday night. Spring break has just begun, and the city of Columbus, Ohio, is alive with celebration. Students are spilling into bars, laughter echoes in the streets, neon lights flicker against the glass, and the air is buzzing with energy. Hundreds of eyes, dozens of cameras, every entrance and every exit lit up and under watch. Now imagine someone walking into that chaos, seen by cameras, seen by people, and then, gone. No footage of him leaving. No trace outside. He walks in and it's as though the night simply swallowed him whole. That's not a ghost story. That's not a piece of fiction. This is the real-life disappearance of Brian Shaffer, a young man who seemed to have everything going for him. Until one night in 2006, when he entered a bar and never walked out. Brian Randall Shaffer was born on February 25, 1979, in Pickerington, Ohio. To those who knew him, Brian wasn't just another medical student. He was charismatic, easygoing, someone who could brighten the dullest day with his humor. He loved to laugh. He loved to play guitar. And above all, he loved music, especially Pearl Jam. He had even told friends that if he could live his dream, it wouldn't be medicine, it would be music. He wanted to be a rock star. But practicality led him down another path. He was smart, ambitious, and hardworking. By 2006, at the age of 27, Brian was in his second year at Ohio State University's College of Medicine. The hours were grueling, the stress was intense, but he powered through. On the surface, his future looked bright. There was also love in his life. His girlfriend, Alexis, was devoted to him. She was convinced that one day they'd be married. Together, they had already planned a getaway for spring break, a trip to Miami. Sunshine, beaches, freedom, it was supposed to be their chance to rest, to breathe, to dream of a future together. But life had already dealt Brian a heavy blow. Just 3 weeks earlier, his mother, Renee, passed away after a long battle with cancer. Her death devastated him. His father, Randy, would later recall that Brian didn't wear his emotions on his sleeve, but inside he was deeply shaken. His grief was silent, but it was there, lingering, pressing on him. And yet, he didn't let it stop him from living. He smiled, he laughed, he made plans. He was the kind of man who, even in the midst of pain, looked forward to better days. No one could have guessed that instead of Miami, instead of sunshine and palm trees, Brian's journey would end in one of the darkest and most puzzling mysteries Ohio has ever seen. Friday, March 31, 2006. The night began as so many nights do, quietly, almost forgettably. That evening, Brian had dinner with his father, Randy, at Outback Steakhouse. The two shared a meal and talked about life. Randy remembered Brian seemed tired, med school was exhausting, but otherwise he was himself. They laughed, they connected. Nothing felt unusual. Nothing felt final. Randy had no idea this would be the last time he'd ever sit across from his son. After dinner, Brian met up with his friend, William Clint Florence. Later that night, Clint's friend Meredith Reed joined them. Together, they set off for the bars along High Street, the center of Columbus nightlife. Picture it. The sidewalks crowded, the air alive with chatter, music booming from open doors and lines forming outside every venue. For thousands of students, this was the night spring break began, a night of freedom and celebration. The trio moved from bar to bar, drinking, laughing, letting loose. And eventually, their path brought them to a place that would become infamous, the Ugly Tuna Saloona. The Ugly Tuna wasn't just another bar. It sat at the South Campus Gateway, perched above the street. To get there, you had to ride an escalator up to the second-floor entrance. Its neon sign glowed in the night, drawing students in like moths to a flame. Inside, the place was packed wall-to-wall with bodies. Music thundered through the speakers, voices shouted over each other, drinks sloshed as people pushed through the crowd. It was chaos, but the kind of chaos that felt normal on a Friday night in a college town. Around 1:15 a.m., surveillance cameras outside the bar captured Brian. He was at the top of the escalator, casually chatting with two women. He seemed relaxed, even cheerful. After a few minutes, he turned, walked back into the bar, and disappeared into the crowd. That image, Brian, smiling and stepping into the Ugly Tuna, would be the last confirmed sighting of him. When the lights came on at closing time, Clint and Meredith left the bar. They assumed Brian had slipped out, maybe gone home, maybe wandered off with someone. But Brian didn't go home. He didn't call Alexis. He didn't answer his phone. By morning, when Alexis couldn't reach him, she started to worry. By the time their flight to Miami took off without him on April 3rd, she was terrified. When police began their investigation, the details were chilling from the start. Brian's car was still parked outside his apartment. His credit cards showed no activity. His bank account was untouched. His cell phone was silent. It was as though he had been plucked off the face of the earth. Detectives began with the Ugly Tuna Saloona. Every inch of the bar was searched. Bathrooms, storage rooms, employee-only areas, even the ceiling spaces above tiles. The exits were checked. Could Brian have slipped out unnoticed? Could he have fallen into a nearby construction site? Was he attacked? Search teams combed the surrounding area. Construction zones. Dumpsters. Storm drains. They even sent divers into the Olentangy River. Nothing. Not a single clue. And then came the most baffling detail of all, the surveillance footage. The Ugly Tuna had cameras at its entrance. Those cameras caught Brian going in. They caught Clint and Meredith leaving. They caught countless other patrons coming and going. But there was no footage, none at all, of Brian leaving the bar. Think about that. In a crowded bar, under the watch of cameras in the middle of a busy entertainment district, a man goes in and he never comes out. How is that possible? Was there a blind spot? Did he find a hidden exit? Was there something sinister inside those walls? Or did Brian somehow slip away without being caught on tape? Theories spread like wildfire. Some thought Brian, still grieving his mother, had staged his own disappearance, vanishing to start a new life far away. Others were convinced it was foul play, that someone inside the bar had hurt him, and his body had been hidden or smuggled out. Still others believed he had fallen victim to an accident in the nearby construction sites. But despite every theory, the investigation hit dead end after dead end. And then, 6 months later, something happened that reignited hope. Alexis called Brian's phone again as she had done hundreds of times before. But this time, it rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Her heart leapt. Was he alive? Had he just been found? Investigators traced the signal. It pinged from a cell tower in Hilliard, Ohio, about 14 miles away. But Verizon crushed the hope. They explained it as a phantom ring, a glitch in the system that makes it seem like a phone is active when it isn't. For Alexis, it was cruel. For a brief moment, she thought she was reaching him. Instead, she was reminded just how far out of reach he really was. Years passed. Leads dried up. But Brian's father, Randy, never gave up. He searched, he hoped, he prayed. He believed his son was still alive, somewhere out there, waiting to be found. But in September 2008, tragedy struck again. A storm rolled through central Ohio, and while clearing debris, Randy was killed when a tree branch fell on him. In an instant, the one man who had fought hardest for answers was gone. At Randy's funeral, an online guest book was set up for friends and family to leave messages. Among the condolences was one that stopped everyone cold. It read, "To Dad, love Brian, U.S. Virgin Islands." For a moment, people thought the impossible had happened. That Brian was alive, that he had reached out, that he was hiding somewhere far away. But police quickly traced the message. It wasn't Brian. It was a cruel hoax. That left Brian's younger brother, Derek, to carry the unbearable weight of uncertainty. In interviews, Derek has admitted that the hardest part isn't just the loss, it's the silence. The not knowing. The constant loop of questions with no answers. As for Alexis, she eventually moved on, but she has said she will never truly let go of Brian. The unanswered calls, the unclaimed plane tickets, the love she thought would last forever, they haunt her still. Today, nearly 2 decades later, the case remains one of the most haunting unsolved mysteries in America. The Ugly Tuna Saloona has long since closed its doors, but its name will forever be tied to this story. So what happened to Brian Shaffer? Did he slip out of the bar and vanish into a new life? Was he the victim of foul play, silenced in a way that's never been uncovered? Or did something else happen, something no one has ever considered? A man walked into a bar on March 31, 2006. Surveillance cameras caught him smiling, talking, laughing. And then, without a trace, he was gone. Until the day the truth emerges, Brian Shaffer's disappearance will remain what it has always been. A riddle carved into the shadows of the night. And that's where the trail ends. Nearly 2 decades later, no one knows what really happened to Brian Shaffer. He walked into a crowded bar on a Friday night, and the world has not seen him since. His family has endured heartbreak, his friends have been left with questions, and the mystery has only deepened with time. But here's where you come in. Stories like this don't just belong to investigators, they live on because people refuse to forget. People like you. So, what do you think happened to Brian? Did he choose to walk away from his old life, staging a disappearance no one could unravel? Was he the victim of a crime, his final moments hidden from the cameras that were supposed to keep watch? Or was it something no one has ever even considered? I want to hear your theories. Drop them in the comments below. Don't hold back. Every idea, every angle keeps this story alive. And if you want more unsolved mysteries, stories that leave you staring into the dark wondering how, why, and where, make sure to subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you never miss when the next story drops. Because somewhere out there, someone knows the truth about what happened to Brian Shaffer. And maybe, just maybe, if enough of us keep asking questions, one day the answers will come. Until then, stay curious, stay safe, and keep your eyes open. Because the most ordinary nights can hide the darkest mysteries.